All right. How we looking?
Good, good.
I love that fucking shot, bro. I don't know why. Like, mine is cool. Actually, I like mine too.
No, I think the colors, I think a little vibrant.
Yeah.
The color, it's crisp. Yeah, it's really limpo.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
I
that.
like it, man.
My friend Nikola Špegar is on for episode number 5 with the bodupodcast. So, Nikola, thank you for coming on.
No problem, Bojo. Glad to be here. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited.
Absolutely, man. So, when I first aired the whole idea with the podcast, you were one of the first people to comment and show your support. So thank you for that. And I feel like that's how we kind of got in touch, because I was like, oh, thanks, man. Thank you for the support. This is something that I want to do. I want to have on other professionals, and you being a pharmacist, I was like, would you ever consider coming on? And you were open to it. So thank you. Thank you for being brave and, wanting to share your story.
Of course. Yeah, I remember, a little while back when we were hanging out and talking and stuff, and you brought up an idea about a podcast, and it was still young and in the flesh, little draft and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, it's a great idea. It sounds wonderful, but I'm really excited that it's actually come to fruition. That it's actually, here I am actually on the podcast, right?
I'm not just talking about it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I saw that first episode, and yeah, I was really excited. I was cheering you on, and I'm really excited that it's going to go off. Yeah. It's going to be pretty successful, so I'm glad to be here.
I don't know. We'll see about all that, but as long as I have people on there like you, yeah, I think we'll be okay.
Excellent, yeah.
But it's funny, though. I was laughing when we were talking earlier. I was laughing when you said that, how long I've been, when I first mentioned it to you. And when we did the math, it came out to be like 4 or 5 years ago. And I can't believe, I was telling you, I can't believe that it took me that long to actually get it going. Well, the last year I was really planning everything out. Mm-hmm. But the years before that, it was just all talk.
Yeah.
So I just really couldn't believe that it took that long for me to put the work in and to kind of actually get serious about it.
Yeah.
But you had a good point that, I was, transitioning in other aspects of my life, and there was other things going on, like career changes and figuring out what I want to do. So that was a good point that this podcast was probably had to take a back seat during everything else that was going on that I was trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's okay. At the end of the day, it's here, it's live, and you're making it happen, so that's what matters.
Absolutely. So yeah, man, you being a pharmacist, how's that going?
I'd say it's going well for the most part. Yeah, I don't work as a pharmacist per se, like at a retail setting or a hospital setting.
Okay.
I work at a pharmaceutical industry, so I'm more on the manufacturing, the drug company, big pharma side, if you will, as a pharmacist. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been exciting. It's been rewarding, challenging, all the things you can think of
that you would want.
Yeah, that you would want. You can think of. It was a long journey, if you will, to get to where I'm at and how we got here. But yeah, I'm excited. It's rewarding.
Just so people understand, you're not like the person when you go to Walgreens and pick up a prescription. You're not the guy behind that desk.
No.
That's not what you do.
No. I used to work at Walgreens. I did my 6-year time there a little before I started pharmacy school. While in pharmacy school. But after graduating from pharmacy school, I kind of cut ties and transitioned over to pharmaceutical industry. Mm-hmm. So I did have retail experience at Walgreens, but I'm no longer there.
So what did you do exactly at Walgreens?
So I was
Is that where you got introduced to pharmacy?
Yeah, I can say. So I started at Walgreens in May of 2014. I was still an undergrad at the time, and I was working at a Walgreens really close to my house, and I had a pharmacy manager there that was really supportive and kind of helped me make that decision to go into pharmacy school even before pharmacy started. So then when I went to pharmacy school, I stayed at that store and I worked depending on the time throughout the school year or the summers or weekends and stuff. So I did that for another 4 years, all while I was in pharmacy school. And yeah,
So Walgreens was good to you.
Walgreens was good to me. Yeah.
There you go. Nice.
Walgreens was good.
Absolutely. But to kind of rewind everything, to the start of your career and your education, where did you go to high school?
I went to Lyons Township High School.
Okay.
Which is relatively close to here and relatively close to Morton.
Yes.
And we played soccer against one another, but I wasn't on the same team in varsity. But yeah, we were high rivals.
Yes, we were LT and Morton West. We definitely were high rivals. But you were, so when I was a senior in varsity, what grade were you in?
So I started high school in 2007 and finished in 2011.
Okay.
So
I graduated in 2008.
Yeah.
So when you came in, I was probably a junior.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. But how old are you now?
29. I'm 29 right now. I'll be 30 in May. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm 32, turning 33. When's your birthday?
May 3rd.
May 3rd? Mine's May 19th. There you go. Are you a Taurus?
Yeah.
Man, I knew I'd like you.
Yeah, Taurus, baby.
But so we've known each other forever, right? But we never really sat down and with those interactions were just small hi and byes. What's up, man? How you doing? What's new?
Yeah.
But I never really got to know you as a person. So that's kind of cool that we're getting this chance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like you said, we didn't go to the same school. We didn't go to the same school for college. We didn't have the same career path. But I think through folklore or through church, through the Serbian community, we definitely hung out a lot. And your parents, my parents, all those weekends and events. That's kind of how it all started. I mean, we both used to dance. So when I came to the United States in 2000, and that was the first thing that we did was got signed up for folklore. So that's how I got to meet everyone and meet you and your family. So that's how it started.
And that just shows how important folklore is in our community.
Yeah.
Because I know some friends that weren't a part of, a folklore group or a church where they danced. And I just feel like I always had way more connections within the Serbian, not connections, but relationships, friendships within the Serbian community than they did, just because they didn't interact with us. But, through folklore, even though you're 3 years younger than me, which is not a lot, we're pretty much the same age, we were able to establish that relationship, that friendship.
Yeah, of course. I think, one of the powerful tools of being in folklore and, establishing those connections and relationship was because of the fact that we got to, dance at other local churches and travel, meet people from Canada and California and Florida and Ohio. So, I think that was one of the things that, for somebody that didn't do it is what they missed out on.
Right.
Maybe I would have met them later on. Or something like that, but it probably would have been a lot different.
It would have been a lot different. Yeah, you wouldn't have had that relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know, when you meet somebody at a younger age and then you go through your teenage years and your early 20s, where you're interacting with them. I mean, it's totally different than meeting somebody when you're 30.
Absolutely.
So, but in high school, we kind of get this sidetracked. I mean, that's going to happen often, but with the conversation. But in high school, did you know when you wanted to be a pharmacist, or how did you figure out what you wanted to do and where you wanted to take your career?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I remember listening to your first podcast about yourself and how, you had a variety of different ideas and career changes and, figuring out what you wanted to do. And listening to it, I was sitting there, I'm like, man, this hits home a lot. Like,
right.
I wasn't interested in almost the same things as you per se, but those experiences, as you were talking about, figuring out whether I want to go to college or go to a community college or go to a, out of state college or, what major I should do, things like that. Like, I was sitting there thinking man, this is the same kind of journey, similar journey I had.
Right.
And, we were talking earlier where I'm the oldest in my family. So I didn't have older siblings or older individuals in the community that will say oh yeah, I'm going to this college, this is what I'm majoring in, this is what you should do, kind of to give that advice to me,
right, to guide you,
to get a little guidance. So in high school, that was kind of the same thing. I was figuring everything out on my own. We had guidance counselors or professors and teachers and stuff and figuring out what I wanted to do. But in high school, all I wanted to do was just play soccer and volleyball
Right.
and go with the flow.
Right.
So, and a little bit of like parental influence too. You know, my parents, ideally, what I really wanted to do based on my experience in high school was become a chemistry professor, teacher, and coach like high school soccer or volleyball. Just because my coach, was doing the same thing. So I was like, man, if I like soccer, maybe I like chemistry.
Right.
I think that would work out. And, with the parents, if I told them that idea, I don't know if they would have said yes or no or whatever, but they originally just said, hey, Nikola, I think it's best for you to be a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor of some sort. And I was like, man, that's kind of getting a little limited right there.
Yeah, my options are, I love soccer and I like chemistry. My options are limited right there.
Yeah, and I didn't hear soccer or chemistry in those three options. So I was like, okay, no problem. I mean, I didn't play soccer in college or anything. So when it came time to decide on colleges and stuff, I was like, okay, I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't really like the whole drench of reading all these books and materials and studying and defending cases and things like that. It was not that interesting.
Right.
Engineering, I guess, is interesting, but I would have to figure out what kind of engineer I wanted to be. And not having any engineering experience or anyone in like my immediate family saying like, oh, yeah, I work as a mechanical engineer for whatever company. This is what I do. This is what I like. I kind of narrowed it down to that doctor path.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't know what kind of a doctor I wanted to be. I wanted to go to medical school. That's what I was assuming. Like, I'll be a doctor. I'll go to medical school. Since I was already doing a lot of like volunteer work in high school, I was part of like, biology club or chemistry club or something like that. Athletic training, things like that. So I was like, okay, that's health related. Yeah. So when it came time to go into college and commit to a university, I went to Benedictine University, and there I majored in chemistry. I started off in chemistry. I don't know what it was about chemistry, but
so you figure out all right, I want to be a doctor. I don't know what kind of doctor yet, and to get your undergrad in chemistry, that would be a step towards figuring out what kind of other doctorate degree you want to go towards, right?
Yeah, that's correct. You don't necessarily have to have a chemistry degree to go like pre-med.
Sure.
You can major in, there's individuals that major in like music and accounting and psychology and stuff like that. But as long as they get the required like classes or prerequisites that are required for you to sit for the MCAT,
right?
You can major in pretty much anything you want.
Right.
But I thought chemistry was a hard science, which overlapped with like the prerequisites. So, general chemistry, organic chemistry, biology, math, calculus, whatnot, all those were kind of going to those MCAT pre-requirements. So I figured, okay, out of all these things that I have available, I think chemistry will overlap and maybe I can do something with chemistry if it didn't work out. But yeah, I stuck to it. And that was kind of the undergrad goal I followed. Right.
So I'm going to go get my chemistry degree, and then from there we'll figure out. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's a smart way to, go about it because, like you said, chemistry does overlap other aspects in the healthcare field. So
yeah.
Nice. And then, so you can still play. I mean, you can still do something with soccer.
Yeah, I did. I had a friend who went to Benedictine University. His name's Slavko.
Okay.
He played on the team there. And I don't know, maybe I should have asked him more, been more proactive about playing soccer.
Yeah.
At the undergrad level. I know it's D3, but still.
Sure, but I'm talking about now. You can pick up a coaching job for a church or something.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Actually, I mean, there's sometimes it did cross my mind a couple times to be like a coach on the weekends or something. Whether it was soccer or basketball, or just any kind of sport. Since I do love sports, but I just don't know in terms of time and management and how much commitment it would take. I never really thought about it too much. Although it does sound great. It sounds awesome, rewarding. Maybe that's something I don't know down the road. Yeah.
Just you gotta keep those doors open.
Yeah. Now I watch it more than play it. So.
All right. What do you watch? What leagues?
I mean, honestly, all of them. But if I had to choose one, like mostly the Premier League, and I do like UEFA Championship Cup. But yeah, Premier League is nice.
Who's your team that you go for?
Ooh, I don't know if I should say this out loud to everyone. They might not like it, but Manchester City.
Okay.
is my go-to.
All right. Well, hopefully some people comment and let us know what they think about that. Yeah. Hopefully, if they do comment, let's just make sure that the Liverpool fans aren't in there, because they're like 3 points behind right now, and they're probably got a lot to say. Well, we'll see.
But we'll see.
So yeah, man, with Farmaciji, what is your position currently?
So currently I work for a smaller pharmaceutical company downtown Chicago, which specializes in endocrinology, gastroenterology, and neurology.
Okay.
That's like their drugs in the pipeline and stuff. My current position is a senior account representative, which is equivalent to like a territory business manager or area business specialist for some other companies. That's more probably the common term, if you will.
Yeah.
I do a good amount of things. Like primarily it's like a commercial role, 80% commercial role, the other percent you can be in the marketing, you can be in like a little bit of medical affairs, you can be involved in a bunch of projects, things like that, but mostly like commercial role. So like a mix of sales, a mix of commercial role. Yeah, it's exciting. Going
back to your education, can you just talk to me a little bit about, what requirements you had to have after you got your undergrad? Like what, for your chemistry, what requirements did you have to actually get into the pharmacy program?
So in terms of requirements, a lot of the schools pretty much had similar requirements. Maybe some programs or schools had a certain class or two that were a little bit different, that was unique to their program in terms of the rest of the curriculum once you get to pharmacy school. But I'd say primarily it's pretty much the same. Your general eds, your regular chemistries, your organic chemistries, your regular biologies, anatomy, physiology, some math, calculus here and there. Okay. Philosophy, psychology, just enough to kind of get you that warm up, if you will. Yeah. Certain schools have like a 2+1 or a 2+4 program, I should say, rather, where you can do like 2 years of prerequisite classes. You don't necessarily get a degree, but those classes will carry over and get, fulfill those requirements, if you will. And then you start your pharmacy program and you just get a doctorate in pharmacy without any undergrad degree. For me, I originally just wanted to have a degree in general, whether it was an undergrad degree for a Bachelor of Science in chemistry, biology, health science, whatever it might have been. I just still wanted to complete those 4 years. But yeah, I mean, making a college decision was definitely difficult.
Wow. What colleges were you considering? Actually, when we talked earlier, you had mentioned that you ran into like a little problem where you got accepted to Benedictine, and then you also got accepted to UIC. Yeah. But you weren't sure if you should switch. Can you just like expand on that a little bit? Because I found it pretty interesting. Another
kind of contribution to that was, my parents, my family, being so close to them, being so close to the Serbian community, being so knit, and knowing everyone that we know here. It was kind of, I wouldn't say frowned upon or looked negative upon if you left home and you went to out of state colleges, like for example, I don't know, Colorado State University or North Carolina, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, right? So I had to kind of stay local. And when I was looking at colleges around the area, I know a lot of people that went to UIC. It's downtown, it's close. DePaul, maybe another one of them. But I didn't really know. Like I said, I didn't have that older sibling or older relative or some family friend that could guide me. So I just applied to a good amount of them in the state, a few out of state just for the purpose of applying out of state, but settled. After the applications all started coming back, Benedictine was the first one to accept me. Right. So I think that's a big deal. Yeah, getting accepted to college and first person, in the family here, to be going to university. So I was like, oh man, I got accepted to Benedictine. Like, this is great. And at the time, this was about like March. So, I still had like 3 months left in high school, but hey, I got accepted to college. Like, yeah, I'm going to commit, whatever. Like, Let's go.
So you just kind of jumped on the first opportunity.
Jumped on the first opportunity.
You didn't even wait to hear from the other schools.
No, I mean, I waited, but not like if I waited for them to accept me or to deny me, I was already committed to Benedictine. Like,
right.
Oh, well. And it's funny, you know, based on our conversation earlier, like because I didn't know that stuff, once I started getting some more acceptances from other schools, like ultimately I did want to go to UIC.
Mm-hmm.
I you know, it was a little bit cheaper. It was a little bit closer to home.
It was cheaper than Benedictine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. At the time, and Benedictine is like a private school.
I see.
So private schools, whether it's in-state or out-of-state, have the same tuition. It's more expensive than a public school, such as UIC. And not until like middle of May is when I heard back from UIC that they are accepting me into their program as well. And then I had like an internal conflict with myself and my parents and just in general, like, wait a minute, like I just got accepted to UIC. Can I back out of Benedictine's commitment?
Right.
That I told them I was going to go there and stuff. But that was like 3 months ago. Am I allowed to do that? I didn't know. And, you know, I maybe should have asked somebody or asked for help or asked for guidance. But again, I just didn't know. And then it was more so like, what would happen if I told them no and then I said yes to UIC, but then something happened in between where now I can't go to UIC, I can't go to Benedictine. Now I'm out of...
Right, you didn't want to burn a bridge with Benedictine.
Yeah, exactly.
So exactly. You didn't know that you can say, no, I don't want to go to Benedictine anymore. I want to go to UIC now.
Yeah.
And you were scared that if you did that,
that
something happened with UIC, then you would be screwed with Benedictine.
Yeah, I mean, I know it probably sounds stupid, but it's a real fear where who knows what could have happened.
I mean, it doesn't sound stupid because you were what, 17, 18?
Yeah, 18 at the time, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you were still, I know you're an adult at 18, but, you know, all these new decisions that you have to make and, you know, these waters that you haven't swam in before. I mean, I can definitely see how you would kind of be scared to back out of Benedictine.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I committed to Benedictine. And I know people can also transfer out of school. Like, you know, you can go to a community college, get the credits, transfer out to an institution, or you can go to college somewhere and then after a year or two transfer out to somewhere else. But I didn't know much about that either. I thought like, okay, I'm in Benedictine. I've committed. I'm, 1 year in, 2 years in. Like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to transfer anything. I don't want to lose any credits. I'm just going to grind this out.
Yeah.
And I have no regrets, you know, going there and stuff. They were an excellent school, excellent program, and I had excellent support and staff from the teachers and faculty and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I love my time there.
Did you drive to school every day?
Yeah.
How long was the drive?
Benedictine is in Lisle, so it was about like 30 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
Something like that. So yeah, it was good. Bad. Yeah.
I was thinking it was gonna be like an hour.
Maybe, I mean, on certain days, but yeah, no, I think I can say comfortably, like I gave myself an hour to get there, but yeah, I was there in like 25, 35 minutes.
Yeah, I'm just saying I have no idea where it's at or how long it would take me to get there. I'm just kind of saying. So then you got your degree in chemistry, right? And you got your master's, doctorate?
Yeah, I did. So after Benedictine, I was in the whole phase of I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to take my MCAT. And when I came to that application process, I went through the whole process, but I didn't get accepted to medical school anywhere. So then I had, a decision to make, like, what am I going to do instead? Am I going to take a gap year? Am I going to take go on to get a master's in chemistry or something else? What am I going to do instead? So, going back to Walgreens, I was working there. My pharmacy manager said, hey, look, like, have you thought about pharmacy? Like, that's also an option. You're majoring in chemistry. You're pretty much covering some of those classes as well. Why not give it a chance? And when I went back and talked to my counselor and looked at some of the classes that I had to take or still that would transition over to prerequisites of pharmacy, I had about like a semester left, a semester and a half, if you will. So I ended up staying an extra year Benedictine to get those prerequisites. I applied for pharmacy school that application cycle and I ended up getting accepted. So yeah, then that was a 4-year program. I went to Chicago State University for my pharmacy degree, the doctorate degree. And after my first year of pharmacy school, that's when I decided that I wanted to get an MBA as well. So my MBA I got at Benedictine University, and I was going to pharmacy school like 8 to 4, 8 to 5, and then taking like night class at Benedictine.
Okay.
6:30 to 9:30. And not every day, but some days more than others. So it was a long day regardless, going, especially between two institutions to get the degree. Yeah.
So break it down for me. What degrees do you have right now?
Yeah. So I have a Bachelor of Science in Health Science.
Okay.
I have a Master's of Business Administration with a concentration on financial management. And then I have a Doctor of Pharmacy degree. So three diplomas in the end.
Very nice, man. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I mean, that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
But what, actually, so when you got all those 3 degrees, diplomas, you said you sent them, a copy of them, to your former advisor in high school that said you won't be successful in college?
That's correct.
How'd you go about doing that?
I mean, like I said, it's not something that I don't want to say I wanted to do, but it was always in the back of my head. Like, here's somebody who's telling me no, or, you won't be able to be successful, or you shouldn't do this because of X, Y, and Z. And once I completed the first diploma, I was like, okay, maybe I should send it now, maybe not, just, see what's going on. But then I thought to myself, like, man, I wonder if I do go on to pharmacy school and if I do finish everything, like, I'm just going to send it at the end like that. Look what happened in the last 8-9 years. And once I did graduate, once I did finish, I called my high school and just to check if that professor was still there. And they were. So I scanned my diplomas. I made a copy of everything. And I wrote a letter, very nice letter, like just saying, hey, hope everything's well. I just wanted to let you know that I've completed, these 3 degrees. Hope everything is going great.
But you didn't mention that, hey, remember when you told me?
No, I'm definitely sure she knows.
Yeah.
100% she knows.
Maybe she doesn't. Maybe just imagine how many other kids she's told the same thing to.
Maybe, but it was something special. I mean, I was
for you. It was special because it hit you hard. There's somebody that's supposed to be encouraging you or, guiding you through through life and what steps you should take. But here they are telling you that you won't be successful in college, that you should go to a community college, which is not a bad option either. But I feel like you shouldn't discourage anybody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think
so. It stuck to you. It hit you harder than it hit her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I still have a feeling she knows exactly.
I hope she does.
But yeah, hopefully. I mean, at least with all the mail that she got with that letter and stuff, she'll know the name. So.
Okay, there you go. Well, that's all that matters. But it's funny because my sister actually had a similar experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think. And she'll correct me when she comes on for her episode, but I believe that her counselor in high school or advisor, I'm not even sure what they're called, but when my sister told them or like gave them the options that she was considering for college, she was like mentioning Loyola was one of them. Mm-hmm. And I think from what I remember, she told my sister something along the lines of like, why do you want to go there? You can't afford that college.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Wow.
Which is like the same thing, you know what I mean? It's like, and sure enough, my sister did go to Loyola and finished pretty much from what I know. Again, she'll correct me, but with not too much depth, you know what I mean? So, and she's a nurse practitioner now. So,
wow.
I got to tell her to send her diploma back to high school as well.
Yeah, do it. I mean, if anything, at least feels rewarding to yourself. Right. I get the whole, discouraging, and you shouldn't discourage anyone and, tell them they're not, great at something, even if they aren't great.
Yeah.
To be that support system and the guidance and do, as much as you can to help support them. But I also think that sometimes, failures and, those negative comments are used as fuel to excite you. To drive some sort of inner energy and passion and drive that says like, you know what, these people are all doubting me, or telling me I can't do something, but it's a lot mind over matter and just pushing yourself, because we're capable of a lot of different things.
Absolutely.
And I think it's very powerful to sometimes get that negative feedback too.
No, and I agree. And who knows, maybe she was doing it with a purpose where she was thinking like, let me light a fire under this kid's ass.
Yeah.
So he stops messing around in school and actually starts working towards his goals.
That could be. Yeah,
that could be, but I don't know if that's the right way to go about it.
Yeah, I'm sure there's other ways to approach that conversation, but that could be. I mean, yeah.
Right.
It could be. Yeah.
All right. Well, here you are. You have all these degrees, and with actually, what made you want to get your MBA? If you were getting your degree in chemistry and then going into pharmaceutical school.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I get asked that a lot, like, why throw in another degree in there in the mix? But I think it was, like I said, after my first year of pharmacy school, I started having professors throughout pharmacy school that were, PharmD, PhD, PharmD, MBA, PharmD, MBA, MPH, all these different, titles and names after their, name. And I was interested by that, like, why the extra effort, why the extra schooling, why the extra work. And it was more so like career progression, or, what they were doing currently that required them to maybe get that degree, or not even required, but they wanted to do it, or they had that as an option.
Yeah. What degree helps them get to those positions? Exactly.
So I did a lot of networking when I was in school. I tried to get a mentor for all those various fields, like whether it was retail, whether it was hospital, whether it was industry, and, just talking to them. That's kind of how some of those conversations went. Like, the reason I got my, master's in public health was I did that before pharmacy school. So I was just getting another, a year under my belt in terms of more clinical experience, or more, school knowledge experience to be able to carry that over. And then, like I said, trying to decide between all these, pharmacy, like there's so many options you can go into when you're done. I wanted to make myself marketable. I think this is probably the best answer, because I didn't really know which route I wanted to take. Do I want to work in retail? Do I want to work in a hospital? Do I want to work in pharmaceutical industry, managed care, hospice, IV, compounding pharmacy, whatever it was. And I'm just drawn to the business aspect. Like, I thought my MBA, was a great program, but it was so easy too. Like, I was interested in that stuff.
That's nice to say. It was so easy.
Yeah. I as opposed to putting my head in the books and burying myself in like therapeutics and all these different medications you have to know and memorize the mechanisms and how they work and what they do. Business, is you can approach it in different ways, and there's always that one answer that's right.
I mean, every industry has a business side to it. So same thing with pharmacy. That's probably an excellent degree to have alongside the other ones.
No, definitely. I think that no matter where you're working at, in general, everything operates or runs as a business. So being able to understand that aspect, or that back end, or the front end, or whatever in business, and how that company operates, how the organization works, how the influx of cash and comes in and out, and just everyday business operating wise, added on to the pharmacy degree. Now I have business knowledge, now I have pharmaceutical knowledge. And I think that was the perfect mix for my little cocktail to send me off to work in pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
So that's why I did that.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's gonna benefit you in many ways going forward.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you.
It will. And then with school, with your pharmaceutical school, what I know you mentioned the requirements for like the classes that you took, but in terms of like a GPA and a certain GPA that you had to hold in order to stay in the program, or to enter the program, what was that like?
Again, there's different schools that have different requirements across the board in terms of what they're asking for. Some programs maybe didn't have all these class requirements, but they wanted you to do certain community work or internships, or have certain hours, or practice in pharmacy setting of one way or another, or healthcare experience, giving back to the community, volunteering, things like that. But in terms of the GPA, I think like the lowest cutoff for some programs that I saw might have been like 2.5, but I don't know if that still applies today. On average, I'd say 3.0 to 3.25 would have been fair to make yourself, I guess, competitive enough.
Absolutely.
On top of that PCAT score that's also required. It's an entrance exam that you need to do as well.
Before you enter the program?
Yeah.
So what score did you have to get on that?
Oh, man. I don't remember what the requirements were. I know that there was like 4 or 5 sections on there, similar to the MCAT at the time. And that was based on like percentiles. So the higher the percentile, obviously the better chance you have to get in and make yourself
I
competitive.
see.
That, I think the PCAT, like if you didn't have a great GPA or if it wasn't up to par what the school was asking for, but you had a great PCAT score, it kind of balanced
Sure.
out. And vice versa too. Like if you had an extremely great, 3.8, 4.0 GPA, but you didn't do that well on the PCAT, like it still balances it out.
Yeah.
So,
How many chances do you get at the PCAT exam? Or is that
I would say
you can take as many?
Yeah, you can take as many times. The only problem with that is that, you're applying during an application window. So if you're taking the PCAT from, let's say, February till August, because your pharmacy school starts in August, but also like their application deadlines are in like May or something. So, I mean, you might have like 3 or 4 months, but
Yeah.
there might be a, time frame in between there where you can't take the exam for another month. So, I'd say like 3 or 4
Sure.
in that academic year. So if you don't,
But you're not limited. If you don't do well, you're not limited to not taking
yeah,
another one.
exactly.
Okay. So, and then also you mentioned hours of like shadowing or, getting that experience before you enter the program. What was the requirements with that? How many hours did you have to have?
They didn't have like standards. It was just more, if you had them, that's great. The more the merrier. I think letters of recommendation are really important, from either like your pharmacy manager if you're already working in a pharmacy, or one of your professors in school who, can give you a great letter of recommendation to send you off to that level.
Hopefully not the one that told you.
Oh, I would not be able to get any letters of recommendation from her.
but letters of recommendation do help.
Yes, definitely. Tremendously, yeah. And some of them even have that as a requirement. Some programs have 3 letters are required. Some have at least 1. But yeah, a lot of pharmacy school, even like afterwards, if you're getting on certain rotations and trying to go into residency or trying to go work at even any career almost with pharmacy, you ask some sort of letter of recommendation, some sort of reference that they can, guide you and write about you and tell you about your work ethic that, you might not be able to explain yourself. So it's like a requirement. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with your current position and once you finished pharmacy school, when did you know that you didn't want to just be like a regular pharmacist? And you also mentioned that the reasons why you didn't want to be like I don't know what you call them, behind the counter pharmacist. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
When did you know that you didn't want to be that, and that there's other opportunities as well within the pharmaceutical field?
I'd say I had like a late calling to that discovery. During my 4th year of pharmacy school, we have this thing where all the students do rotations. So I applied for a LAP program, which is like a longitudinal advanced pharmacy practice experience.
Okay.
We had about 7 of those that lasted 6 weeks each for the academic year. And I applied to do that program at University of Chicago. And I had a great time. I learned so much. I was immersed in the environment. I worked really hard to, understand everything that's going on and do all my schoolwork stuff and learn on the spot. And I can explain it to some people as like a mini residency, because that's kind of how it felt. Like there was days where I was there from like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's days where, I wouldn't go to sleep until like 3, 4 a.m., but had to be up the next day just because of all the projects and, journal clubs and presentations we were doing. So that's kind of how it felt. But, I learned so much. And then I thought to myself, like, I wonder what the next step would be after this. Okay, it's residency. A lot of the hospitals require residency, at least the first year residency, to be done before you can work there, unless you have like, 2, 3, 4 years of experience at like a smaller institution. And just the thought of like doing more school. Residency is not school per se, but it's another like year of training, like as if you're still a student. And it's like really rigorous program, but just the thought of doing residency for another year or 2 didn't really, turn me on as much, or I wasn't drawn into it as much. And then looking at the retail aspect, like Walgreens, or a retail pharmacy, I was already there for 6 years. And then I thought to myself, like, yeah, this could work out. This could be great. I can be a pharmacist. I can start from floating pharmacist, pharmacy manager, district manager, whatnot. But that kind of career path, you never knew whether it would take you a year or 10 years.
Right, to get to a certain position.
To get to a certain
So
position.
you felt like there was a cap, you were limited with
yeah.
how much growth you can potentially have within this field.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, it would have been maybe stagnant,
Right.
like just being at one store for the next 10 years or 20 years. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure, there's people out there that do that.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's people out there that enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have their 8 to 4, 9 to 5, whatever, and they're happy with that, and they're not ambitious to do more.
Yeah.
But you, on the other hand, you do want to do so much more, which is another reason why you got that MBA.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, when I looked at those two, I kind of was, indecisive in between that stuff. And while I was on those rotations, I worked a lot with people from the pharmaceutical industry that came into the institution that we worked on, like specialty medications or, medications that were new. So we had like medical science liaisons come in, present their scientific data. We had sales folks come in. We had, a lot of individuals from pharmaceutical industry come in, and being able to talk to them and network with them to get a better understanding of what it is that they do on a day-to-day basis, and, if they like anything about the job, dislike anything about the job. And then having a mentor in pharmaceutical industry, kind of being able to tie all those things together, where my pharmacy background would work, my MBA would work, and having those conversations really drew me to the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, so networking with all these people, you realize that there's so much more.
Yes.
Instead of just being a pharmacist.
Yes, definitely.
Which is, I'm not saying instead of just being a pharmacist like it's bad, but you realize that there's so many more opportunities there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So that's when you kind of realize, like, maybe I kind of want to do more.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, it was a little late to the party, if you will, just because a lot of, individuals go into pharmacy school, like already knowing what they want, and they just have to do all the requirements that will get them there. And I kind of made that decision in my last year of pharmacy school, which, I'm already a couple years behind.
Well, I mean, but how are you behind? It's not like they have an advantage when they had to go through the same program, as you did. And you, after you finished school right away, you jumped into, your current position, right?
Mm-hmm. I guess.
So how are you behind?
I guess one of the advantages for folks that are in pharmacy school, if I were in the same grade, same class, whatever, is if they're not working for Walgreens, but they're working, summer internships at pharmaceutical industry companies, or, if there's students out there that are going to pharmacy school near the pharmaceutical companies, like in the East Coast or the West Coast, where they're more abundant,
right?
Where there's more pharmacy school programs that have ties or links to pharmaceutical industry. These students are getting those experiences, whereas I, in my program, did not have any.
Right.
I mean, I know of the companies, but I had no ties, no networks, nothing, no programs set in place to allow me to get those experiences. So that's kind of how I was late to the party, if you will.
Sure.
And that's when I thought, hey, I have to distinguish myself between some of those students that have that experience. What should I do? And I went to get an MBA because most folks or most students did not have that.
I see.
At the end, yeah.
So you had a nice little game plan for all of this.
Yes. It was definitely a different game plan. It took a little bit more time, but yes, I had a plan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you made it work. I mean, and your resume speaks for itself.
Yeah.
So then, I know we mentioned this earlier, but you figure out what you want to do after you're done with school, and how did you land where you are at right now, and what is your current position?
So going back to my mentor, he's been really helpful, really tremendous with a lot of that pharmaceutical industry experience, since he himself works there. And ultimately, I wanted to go into like medical affairs, more on the scientific side of the products and the pipeline, and having those scientific exchanges and discussions. But that also is like a little bit more difficult path for somebody who doesn't have some of those experiences, like I mentioned earlier. Sure. And he at the time was a medical science liaison at a company. And right around the time I was graduating, he worked for the company that I'm currently working for, and kind of helped me, guide me in terms of like, hey, look, I know where you want to go. I know where you want to be. but we're currently, recruiting and offering positions for a territory business manager or a senior account representative. I know it's not what you want, but it's going to be a foot in the door.
Right.
And, the fact that it happened so fast, like I graduated and a month later I was able to get this position, that kind of just made me more excited about the fact that, hey, the less time I have to spend, searching for certain jobs. I mean, I apply all the time. Like even when I was about to graduate, I was applying left and right to get an MSL position.
Right.
It is difficult, but I'm still trying to pursue that today.
And MSL,
yes,
which stands for what again?
Medical Science Liaison.
Okay, so that's your ultimate goal.
Ultimate goal, yeah, that's the dream job.
There you go. You're gonna get there.
Yeah. So. And thanks to him, like I said, I was able to get my foot in the door at this organization. I've been learning a lot, growing a lot, successful a lot. I mean, it's amazing. It's like opportunities that exist are amazing, and just being able to network within the organization, outside of the organization with like-minded individuals. I think it will make it happen. So I'm excited.
You definitely will. But so what do you do like right now? Like what's your day-to-day look like?
Day-to-day, I mean,
what's your like what is your position in the pharmaceutical field?
So it's on the commercial side. It's a senior account representative role. Primarily, it's like commercial, 80%, mostly like sales in neurology. I'm in the rare disease space.
Okay, and you work for a drug company, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a smaller pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what I do. There's like, marketing involved in there, a little, medical affairs stuff involved in there. There's educational stuff involved in there, but primarily like sales. Like, you have a set amount of contacts, physicians, providers that you call upon, and, you try to do like in-service details about the product. You do patient education about the product. You attend certain conferences, for the disease state where the patients are at. You attend like pharmacy and therapeutic committee items. So there's so many things, that primarily is involved.
You're building that business for the company.
That's correct. Yeah.
So you're in so pretty much sales.
Yeah.
Okay. Pharmaceutical sales. Okay. And how far are you right now from being an MSL? Like, where is your position compared to the MSL position?
That's hard to answer because I don't know if you can compare.
Or let me ask you this:
sales to medical science liaison, but
what is the medical science liaison?
Liaison, yeah.
What does the MSL do? What is their position?
So they are primarily involved with scientific exchange of information between the internal or the company that they work for, and then the external, which is the providers in that therapeutic area disease state. They're like the experts in terms of competitive intelligence, reading the market, to be able to see, are there any other drugs that are coming out for this disease state? What does our competitors look like? Are there, 3 drugs? Are there 0 drugs? Are there 15? Does it make sense to launch another product that is the 16th blood pressure medication?
Right.
And, they basically interact with providers to assess those unmet needs. Let's say there's a gap in, endometriosis, for example. There's not that many therapies available, or the ones that are available are not therapeutically effective or beneficial or something. So the medical science liaison interacts with these providers to assess those needs, and then it reports back to the organization. Yeah, so the medical science liaison basically takes what the company is currently working on or doing or developing, and then has the interactions externally to doctors, providers, nurses, staff about what it is that that drug company is doing.
Okay. And
then when that interaction is reciprocated, because the providers and staff and large medical academic centers say, okay, this is what we're interested in, or this is where we see an unmet need. And then the medical science liaison takes that information that they're collecting and brings it back to the drug company, to see where they can assess or work together, or maybe initiate trials or do, certain research that will help lead or meet that gap that they just addressed.
So you kind of gather, as an MSL, you kind of gather data for the drug company that lets them know what drugs are missing in the market and where there's a need for a certain drug.
Yeah, in that therapeutic disease state space.
And then the drug company, based on the data that you gathered, they'll decide, if they want to pursue that, I guess, drug.
Yeah, for the most part, that's pretty much it. There's so many other things that they do, attending scientific conferences, presenting presentations at these conferences, setting up like advisory boards. There's so many different things that they get pulled in, attending pharmacy and therapeutics committees.
So what kind of presentations are they presenting?
Usually scientific presentation that involves like the phase 3 clinical trials, study data results, or maybe they did phase 2 study.
So it's a presentation on a study, not on an actual drug that's on the market right now.
Yeah, the drug has not been launched yet.
Okay.
There are presentations where the drug has been launched, and then they're presenting data that has been updated utilizing that medication, like post-marketing or phase 4 studies that they might conclude and do, which kind of gives that updated data that, from the first time that they presented, they might have found or seen or whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to compare like your current position and the MSL position. So the current position, you're involved with sales where there's a drug already on the market,
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to push that drug towards certain doctors or clinics. Versus an MSL, you're not working with a drug on the market already. You're trying to figure out which drug that company should produce.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to kind of give people an idea of the difference between the two.
Yeah. I mean, MSLs, they do present information on drugs that are currently available as well.
Uh-huh.
That's also part of their job for those providers to educate them, right? Like maybe there's providers out there that haven't heard about the medication yet, or, somebody hasn't made a relationship or established a relationship with that key opinion leader or that healthcare provider. So they're going to present information about the drug that's already on the market, it's already available, to educate them. Mostly what a medical science liaison will do is just education about the disease state, about the product, about the drug, that, the provider might not have seen or heard of. Because their interactions, they only do about like 1 to 2 interactions a year with their providers. So in that time frame, there's a lot of things that can happen.
Yeah.
That's new, that's updated, that's researched and stuff. So they make those updates and present to the providers. Yeah.
Okay, nice. And that's your ultimate job.
Yeah, I think that sounds amazing. I think it's very motivating, and just that scientific storytelling.
Yeah.
Relationship building, scientific storytelling.
You are a lot more involved
Yeah.
than just making the drugs in a pharmacy, right?
Yeah. More involved, definitely more involved than working in like a different setting. Yeah.
As my buddy Nikola Špegar, he was on episode 3, I think. Yeah. I'm acting like I have so many episodes.
That's okay.
I'm trying to keep track. But he said, with his job, he wanted to be more than just an architect, because as an architect, you were only involved with one piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with like a pharmacist at Walgreens, they were only involved with one piece of a puzzle. But as an MSL, you kind of have a lot more information coming in, a lot more gears that are turning that you're involved in, and that you're probably overseeing.
Yeah, I'd say.
So you're a lot more involved, and you being ambitious and wanting to advance in your career, that's probably 100% the path that you should go.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, I mean that's ultimately the goal. So we'll see what happens, but that's what I'm chasing.
There you go.
Yeah.
What are requirements to be an MSL? What are they looking for?
I think it varies a lot from company to company, but there's also a lot of similarities. Primarily, the company will look for an individual who has either a previous therapeutic area experience. So if you've been somebody who works in endocrinology as a pharmacist, or oncology as a pharmacist, a clinical pharmacist, they do look for MD, PhD, or PharmD doctorate candidates. But if you have experience in a certain therapeutic area, and then that drug company has a product in the same therapeutic area, that's kind of like a match. they look for somebody who might have anywhere between 2 to 5 years experience in that therapeutic area. Some companies look for individuals who have had previous medical science liaison experience.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them call it like an entry-level medical science liaison, but the entry-level component is like 2 to 3 years of previous medical science liaison experience. So then you're questioning like, oh, well, how do I get that experience if I don't have any MSL experience? So that's sometimes a challenge. But yeah, primarily those are kind of like the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Maybe working in the same territory. So if you're already, working in a clinic setting as in a hospital or oncology clinic or cardiology clinic, and you're establishing relationships in that territory in that region, that would be a great fit because you live in that same territory. You're going to be
and you already have like a book of business,
something like that. Yeah.
So do you feel like you're qualified for it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I definitely applied to a lot, and they said no. I know it's discouraging, but it doesn't.
Well, that was initially. Now you have. How long have you been in your current position for?
We're coming up in 2 years.
So 2 years out of school?
Yeah.
So you're fresh to the field.
Fresh to the field.
All right. Well, I mean, you're still gaining that experience. So your ultimate goal is to be an MSL, and so initially when you were coming on, this whole time I was thinking that you're a pharmacist, like the traditional pharmacist.
Yeah.
So I had all these questions for you in terms of that field.
Yeah.
So I am wondering, like, what are your thoughts? I mean, we got your education, we talked about that, and your career. But what are your thoughts on the opioid crisis that is going on here in the United States and across the world?
Oh man, yeah. Oh, that's.
How do you feel?
Hard.
Like you mentioned earlier, when you were working at Walgreens, what percentage of the orders were? What would you say? The oxygen
C2, like controlled substance.
Okay.
Since they're all classified as controlled substance, a lot of the opioids, narcotics, anything for like pain management, is considered like a controlled substance. So I'd say, I don't know, in the 6 years that I was at Walgreens.
So with the CO2, you said?
C2.
CO2. With the C2, that whatever the substance is, they're inhaling it. Is that what it is?
Oh, no. C2 is just like a schedule. Like you have a, controlled medication. So, there's so many medications out there.
Uh-huh.
And the reason that certain medications get controlled substance marked on them is because of the likelihood that they might be abused or addictive properties.
Mm-hmm.
So, C5 controlled substance with a C5 marker on them is the ones that are least likely to cause any addiction, any like addictive properties or any severe consequences of you getting something else after taking that medication. And then as you work your way up, C4, C3, C2, C1, that's kind of how they classify those. So
the lower they are, the higher the addiction possibility is.
Yeah, you can say that. Yep.
So work your way down, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. Usually, that's the rule of pharmacy.
So then C1 is the most addictive, or
C1 most addictive, most likely to be abused.
Okay, and then C2 is another level, and you said 20% of the orders that were coming in were prescriptions?
So tying it to like the opioid crisis, which has been, growing extremely in the bad direction, negatively, probably in the last like 20 years easily. But yeah, a lot of pharmaceutical companies are getting sued for, their opioid causing, habits or pushing the drug for certain providers or whatever the case might have been. And you've probably seen that in the news, and that's kind of what's led to the opioid crisis because pain medication, usually there's not like a scale. That's pain medication scale, like what you might consider painful, somebody else might not consider painful. Like, you can break a rib and you might just get a pain medication to help you through that process, and that pain medication might not be enough. So you have to climb that scale of where does it not hurt anymore,
right?
As opposed to somebody else who might have a rib injury and breaks their rib. The lowest on that scale is enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's more so like, I don't know, I'm in pain, right? I need more.
Yeah.
But do you really need more?
Right.
And that's where, that gray line is drawn, where it's like, okay, well, if this one didn't work, let's put you on something else. If that one doesn't work, let's put you on something else. And when you're mixing all these things, yeah, you might become addictive, or
do you ever think people lie about needing more because they like the way it makes them feel?
Probably.
Which is why people get addicted to it?
Yeah, probably. I mean, even like when you get your wisdom teeth pulled out, right? They're going to give you some pain medications, some to numb everything that just happened, but they only give you enough to last you a couple days and stuff. So hopefully you're not going to get any addiction from that, and you're just using it appropriately. That's another problem, is that some of these medications aren't used appropriately, which does lead to that opioid crisis.
What do you mean by not used appropriately?
I mean, if the doctor says use this, one tablet every 2 hours, or one to two tablets every 4 to 6 hours, but the patient is like, well, I took the 1 to 2 tablets and it didn't do anything, so I'm gonna use 6 instead of the 1 and 2, which was prescribed, and now those 6 won't last me those 3-4 days. They're gonna last me 1 day, and now I'm going back to the office saying, oh, hey doc, I'm in pain. Like, it's not going away. Like, I'm already through all those meds that you gave me. And then the doctor writes more, right? Because I'm trusting you that you are in pain,
right?
that you aren't feeling well, so I'm gonna write more. But then you have some of those folks who might have back pain, and back pain, is also another thing that's like, well, how bad is that back pain? And they're getting prescribed medication that's 200 at a time, 300 pills at a time, which it could be problematic too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my time at Walgreens, I'd say in those 6 years that I was there, probably like 20 to 30%, maybe even more, but 20 to 30% of all the prescriptions I'd fill would be some sort of narcotic, whatever it might have been used for. But yeah.
Did you find like a lot of like shady activity when, I don't know, people would try to come in and get certain drugs to use, I guess, for their personal use? Because you always hear about like stories where they're faking prescriptions, to get, I don't know, Vicodin or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you get a lot of that? Like, did you catch a lot of people trying to do that at Walgreens?
I wouldn't say a lot. I wouldn't say a lot, but there definitely would be, here and there. And after reviewing prescriptions for so long and seeing, the prescription itself, and, we have a really great standards in place right now, I think, in pharmacies across the country where, you're limited to a certain amount per month, or you can only get a certain amount until you have to go back to the doctor and get more. And, you monitor the doctor's prescribing patterns as well. Like if this patient, for example, each month has been coming in and getting 30 Oxycontin, 1 per day, and they've been doing that for the last year, that's appropriate, right? But if you start seeing patients that are coming in and then 1 month they're getting 30, the next month they're getting 120, the next month they're getting 240, then they're back to 60 or whatever, like those are like unpredictable.
Yeah, so when you see those like increases in usage, what can you do? Can you question the doctor's orders? Can you be like, hey doc, why is the patient eating so much?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the state of Illinois, the law, we have like a prescription drug monitoring program where every like control medication you have to enter into the system, and then they do like a background whole like investigation in the back end where you monitor how much of that certain drug or medication that doctor has prescribed, and then also the patient too. Are they picking it up at other pharmacies? Like, are they gonna come to this store, get the medication, go to the doctor 2 days from now, and then try to get it at another Walgreens or another pharmacy? And if they're doing that, they're just shopping around trying to get it. Cash paying customers is another like kind of thing that you watch out for, because they don't want to build their insurance,
right? So
that the insurance now knows that they're getting this medication. But they're smart. They're trying anything, right? At a certain point, you're going to try anything you can to do to get those medications. But yeah, there's definitely been times where you get a fake script, or you're reading it, it's like, oh, this doctor doesn't even practice anymore.
Yeah.
Or they stole the prescription pad from the physician
So
when they were in the office.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That happens, yeah.
Yeah, and they forge the signatures.
Yeah.
So when you go to the doctor and you're like, hey, this patient is, what's going on here? Why is there such an increased usage in a certain drug? How does the doctor usually respond? Are they like, okay, we'll ease them off of it, or do they respond like, well, I'm the doctor, like, what do you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I mean, you're trying to always use your best judgment. When you start seeing some of those things like that, like at the end of the day, like, your license is at stake too. If something were to happen to the patient, or if, you didn't do your I call double D's, like your due diligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think a phone call to the office hurts.
Right.
Even if, I'll call the doctor and they'll say like, oh, yeah, that's fine. That's appropriate. Like, go ahead and fill it.
Yeah.
As long as you did that step and you verified
and you can
document it. Yeah, that's the most important thing too. Is if you don't document anything, it didn't happen.
Right.
So if I did see something that was abnormal and I actually called the doctor, I verified. I did my due diligence and I'm gonna release it. Sometimes the insurance will put a cap on it. Mm-hmm. So then the insurance will say, hey, this is fine. I guess it's normal, but they won't be able to pick this prescription up until 4 days from now.
Yeah.
Because what they've been using previously should last them enough for the next 4 days to be able to rerun the claim again for it to be covered. So there's also like insurance that kind of puts that stuff in place. So yeah, if you're doing your due diligence,
you're okay.
you
should be okay. Yeah. Now with like the amount of increase in these certain drugs, opioids, narcotics, are they the same? Is that the same?
Yeah.
Okay, so with the amount of increase in the usage with these drugs, do you think it's gonna play like any like a resistance down the line where these drugs won't be as effective anymore for some people because they've been on it for so long?
Yeah, I mean,
like, do you build up that?
Yeah, the tolerance. Yeah, that definitely might be something to think about. Because again, at the end of the day, like if somebody's using a medication appropriately, then they should be managing the disease state, whatever is going on appropriately. But if they're starting abusing the medication, then maybe 2 tablets won't be the same as now taking 4. I need 4 to get the same effect, or now I've been taking 4 and now I need 8 to get the same effect. And in long term, what about the cost? Because there's a lot of medications that are expensive. And if they get to a certain point where I can't afford this medication, but I need it, and I need more than what's allowed, then it turns into a whole nother mess where maybe they're buying it elsewhere or on the street or whatever the case might be. And then, nowadays you don't know if it's laced with something else, right? Like, you
definitely don't want to be buying off the street.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, never. But I'm just saying that's out there. That's a problem, because if I go to Walgreens and I get Vicodin, for example, I know that that's Vicodin, right? It's been FDA approved. That's what I'm buying. That's what I'm going to get. But now if I go somewhere and then somebody on the street is telling me, hey, Nikola, you want some Vicodin? It might look like Vicodin. It might smell like Vicodin, right?
Right.
But I don't know if it's been coated with something, if it's been laced with something, if it's been added on something, and that turns into a whole bigger problem, because that would lead to overdose itself, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just telling somebody recently, I went to Mexico, right? And on the beach, somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, hey, Nikola, you want some cocaine?"
Right.
And I'm looking at him, I'm like, well, how do I know that that's cocaine? Like, I could have went in, home and crushed up Tylenol or something else, maybe flour. Yeah. And then just said, oh, yeah, this is cocaine.
Yeah, you don't know what they're selling. Not that you should be looking to buy cocaine.
Never.
But I get your point.
The dangerous world out there,
Right.
That you never know. And then nowadays you hear a lot of stuff on the news, and it's been occurring with the opioid crisis. And fentanyl is like a bigger one that's, even more potent. So, like taking fentanyl is like 100 times worse than taking Vicodin. So for somebody who doesn't have any tolerance, or just in general doesn't know what Vicodin does, taking a fentanyl would, do something that's even worse.
So what is fentanyl used for?
It's also used for pain.
Pain.
Yeah,
But what
mostly-
if it's so much stronger than like a regular Vicodin? Then in what scenarios would it be used?
Yeah, so normally fentanyl is used for patients that are like chemotherapy
Okay.
or like end stage, where the pain is just really unbearable and you're more like in a hospice setting
Okay.
where you're just trying to literally just minimize the amount of pain that person is in.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, I mean, it comes in various forms, but normally most common one is the patch. The fentanyl patch you just wear for like 72 hours and then you replace it and stuff. And it comes in really, really small dose.
Okay.
So because of the potency. So yeah, now that you have an opioid crisis and now you're lacing medications with fentanyl or something else, you don't know what's going on. And
Right.
that's what leads to a lot of overdose. That's what leads to like this opioid crisis of overprescribing, not using many medication appropriately, if you will.
Yeah, I understand. I feel like in Serbia and Croatia and Bosnia, you can go to the antibiotica and pick up anything you want.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure like you can go over there without a doctor's prescription and
Mhm.
pick up some certain narcotics or antibiotics. I feel like that's a problem as well, being that it's so accessible over there,
Mhm.
and then people are just going and picking it up even if they don't need it.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but I think people can pretty much go in there and get whatever they want. Well, not
Mhm.
whatever they want, but
Yeah.
certain things that you wouldn't be able to get here. And I feel like that's a pretty big problem. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like how things are ran over there versus here?
Yeah, I was actually talking to a good friend of mine about how I want to visit a pharmacy back home.
Mhm.
I haven't been back home in a while, but one of my things I wanted to do was just to see some of those differences, to
Yeah.
see how it functions, how it works, how it operates, what are the available medications. I went on a medical mission trip to India, and at the airport you have a pharmacy, and I was able to buy like a box of amoxicillin.
What is that?
It's an antibiotic
Okay.
as well. Yeah. So like,
And here it's a prescription, right?
yeah.
What can an antibiotic do if it's not like if anybody just wants to go take some? What does it do to you?
I mean,
Like
it's
I know it's for like
any sort of infection.
infection.
Yeah.
But if somebody doesn't have an infection and takes it, what's the purpose of it?
Nothing really. Like
Okay.
nothing's gonna happen in terms of like, okay, I'm gonna get some sort of liver injury or
Okay.
I'm gonna develop a rash or whatever. But that's the whole point of like, if you know the reason that you need amoxicillin or levothyroxine, these medications that are maybe available to other countries that are not available here via prescription, then if I think it's okay if like, okay, I'm currently on levothyroxine, let's say, I'm going to go over there, I'm going to buy some levothyroxine because that's what I'm using. It's an equivalency kind of aspect.
Yeah.
But if for somebody who doesn't really know and they're just buying it just because they're buying it, that's where it leads to the problem.
Yeah.
I think, we all try to like self-diagnose ourselves at certain point in time.
Especially us Serbians.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, my head hurts, I'm just gonna take this, or oh, I have an upset stomach, I'm gonna take this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was at the dentist, or I have some sort of infection, whatever, I'm gonna take this. But
So that's like my point. I feel like over there,
Yeah.
People that might not need it and they think they need it, they go pick it up. And can you build up like a resistance to antibiotics?
yes, that I was gonna talk about that next, because antibiotic resistance is like a huge deal.
Is it really?
Yeah, like a lot of hospitals have policies in place called antimicrobial stewardship, where if you're somebody who has once before had some sort of infection and stuff, they'll usually start off, like I mentioned, something low end, right? Like we don't know what kind of, if we know the kind of infection that you have, we're going to give you something that maybe you haven't used before. Or based on your history, like you're going to tell me, hey, I've tried antibiotic X, Y, and Z. And if that antibiotic has worked, we're going to use the same one. If it hasn't worked, we're going to try something else based on what the diagnosis is. But that's the problem with if you were somebody who has recurrent infections, or somebody who is in the hospital for certain infections, and you're using a certain antibiotic over and over, you're going to develop this resistance. So the next time you get sick or the next time you have an infection, that antibiotic won't work. Mm-hmm. And if you go to the next antibiotic and you kind of do the same thing, you develop that resistance, because at the end of the day, I'm not saying that it will, but at the end of the day, you might run out of antibiotics to use, because all of those that are used previously or before, you're developing that resistance to.
But if a patient needs it, like if they have an infection and they need it,
mm-hmm.
and that infection keeps coming back, like how do you prevent that? How do you control that use?
I mean, I think it has to go back to the diagnosis to figure out what is really the cause of that infection.
Okay.
Like if it's a certain infection that, because then you might be treating it with a medication that's not working for it, and then it's not effective, then you got to try something else. Or they usually use like combination antibiotics, like they tag team, like they use mm-hmm. 2 different antibiotics to see if it, the infection will go away. But I think the first thing is just being able to get an appropriate diagnosis of whatever the disease state is. And then once that's set, then you can use the antibiotic. But yeah, that's one of the problems. A huge problem. And, they have that stuff set in place.
When did it start becoming like a problem? Or I'm sure it's always been a problem, but mm-hmm. when did people start realizing like, okay, this is something we should really consider like restricting?
Well, I don't know exactly time wise. I mean, I'd definitely say in like the last like 30 years or so for sure. Okay. Just because there's like second generation and third generation antibiotics that have come out because of that. They do a lot of like certain hospitals and facilities do like a lot of data collection where whatever patient comes in with a certain infection disease state, they can do like a map. And they map it out. Like, so for example, like let's just say in the United States, you zoom into the state of Illinois, you can kind of see what are most common like infections that occur. Mm-hmm. And through that antimicrobial stewardship program, you're able to say like, okay, we've seen a spike or increase in this infection. Like this is what we've been treating it for. Are people like resistant to this antibiotic? If so, then we're not even gonna use that antibiotic. We'll use something else. Or what if a patient has an allergy to an antibiotic? Then another one's available. So yeah, it's a big challenge for sure.
What I'm trying, and going back to back home, you can't purchase antibiotics here over the counter, right?
No.
You have to have a prescription.
Yeah.
So again, I'm pretty sure back home you can.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're having a problem here where it's controlled, right, with antibiotics, and over there people are able to go and pick it up for any small infection, I guess, even if they don't need it, then imagine what kind of problem they will have back home eventually.
Yeah.
If everybody's buying them off, over the counter without the prescription.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they're being more proactive about it and asking their doctor, asking a professional for help and what antibiotic recommendation they can get, as opposed to going to the store and just picking up something off the shelf saying, oh yeah, this is going to get rid of, whatever infection I got. But yeah, that might not be the case. And what ultimately is going to end up happening is the same thing with, antibiotic resistance, where if they do get certain infection and they take a certain antibiotic and they see that it's not working, then they're really going to be going to the hospital, really getting severely checked up. So then it's going to be another antibiotic that they're going to get. And then that is the one that's going to work. So it's
I guess what I'm trying to say is that you should consider becoming like a health advisor for Serbia.
Ooh, that's a challenge.
There you go. That's your foot in the door into the pharmaceutical industry over there.
Yeah, that would be neat.
Would you ever want to live over there?
I don't know. I think
if you had a nice pharmaceutical job over there, and
I think it would be
living somewhere in Serbia or wherever.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be interesting to experience, I guess, at our current age, as opposed to coming here so young or growing up over there so young. I think it will definitely be interesting in terms of like, what the life is like, what the work balance is, what, just everything else that we kind of grew accustomed to here. It will be like, I don't want to say cultural shock since we are from there, but we did miss out on a big gap of growing up there as opposed to growing up here. In terms of working there, I don't know. A lot of people have gone back and, moved back and lived there and worked there and stuff like that. I think if I were to do it, I'd probably do it for half a year or something at most.
You wouldn't want to live there?
But I don't know if I want to live there and, work there and do the same thing maybe I'm doing here, but just back home. I don't know. I'd probably be a little bit different about it. Yeah.
See, I'm like, man, if I can find a nice paying job over there.
Yeah.
That lifestyle over there is just so, I don't know, it's nice. Like, you're in the middle of everything. You know, you take a 2-hour flight, you're anywhere. You're in Africa, in Western Europe, Asia. You know what I mean? You're right there for everything.
I know. And here you drive 2 hours and you're still in Illinois.
Yeah, or even a 2-hour flight. I'm halfway to LA. You know?
Oh yeah, that's a long one.
So I don't know. It's like, to me, it's, and then like just being around in Serbia around others, you know, it just feels like home, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I definitely think. I mean, maybe it's because it's been so long that I haven't been back since 2009.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that's a long time to go.
Did you ever like go for the summer, 2 months, go over there party?
Yeah, I did that, but that was like earlier days. Like I went in like 2005, 2007, 2009. I don't know. We were just high school at that time, even grade school. So yeah, I haven't gone back since 2009. So I'm sure things are totally different and all that. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm not as drawn back right now. But I do want to go back. That's definitely something I want to visit.
Of course.
Living and working there, that would be interesting.
With you coming on and sharing your education and your career and where you are in life and where you want to go, if there's people out there that have any questions for you, it might be kids that are considering college or the pharmaceutical industry. Or even if there's the elderly, that have any questions on certain medication, would you be okay with people, like for people to reach out to you, with certain questions or for guidance?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that's like probably one of the best benefits of having this podcast, where you're bringing in all the individuals that are going to be guests on your show and various different careers and aspects in what they're doing and the diverse backgrounds that they have. And I think one of the important things is no matter how, hard it was for us to get to where we are and how we have overcome these difficulties and challenges, I'm not alone, right? And now just because I made it, if you will, to the other side or the end, or, I'm on top of the hill, there's definitely somebody who's climbing that hill too.
Exactly.
Right? And I think that it's really important to celebrate that success for myself and for my friends and family and whatnot. But I think it's also important to give back to the community, or not even the community, just anyone in general who might have those questions, who might have the same thoughts as I did. Like, do I do this? Do I not? Like, what's the best option?
Don't you wish like you had somebody that you can listen to talk about this industry?
Yeah,
or,
absolutely.
Somebody to give you some guidance?
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm definitely open to it. Yeah, if there's anybody out there that has any questions, whatever question it might be, whether it's related to pharmacy or not.
Right.
I mean, if I don't know the answer to, I'll try to point you to the right direction.
Right. You'll help them find an answer.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Božo. I really appreciate you, and thanks for taking the time for me to be here today.
Thank you for being open for people to reach out to you. And anybody, if you do want to reach out to Nikola, you can reach out to him through social media. I will tag him on my Instagram page, bodupodcast, and Facebook as well. So you can reach out to him through social media, or you can also reach out to me and I will get you in touch with him. But if you enjoyed our episode, if you enjoyed our conversation, please share it with people. Please share it on your social media. Go ahead and give us a comment if you enjoyed it. Let us know what you thought. Also, please like it as well. So again, thank you, Nikola, for coming on. And you will be coming on again, hopefully, when you do get that MSL position.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Hopefully I will be back. Thank you so much.
The doors are always open, my man.
Thank you, Božo. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you, man, and have a wonderful night.
All right. Same to you.
Thank you. Peace out, everybody. All right, man.
Hell yeah.
How was it?
Dude, that was good, man.